Okay, Mr. Brightside by the Killers. Love this tune, played it many times, always keeps the dance floor absolutely packed. Let's get straight into this one, it's going to be a lot of fun. Some housekeeping to begin with. We are tuned down to E flat, so that's everything down a semitone. E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, B flat and E flat. You don't have to tune down. I've often played this in concert pitch, but if you want to play along with this tutorial or with the original record, then tune down to E flat. Okay, just on that note, when I refer to the note as D, or whatever the note might be, obviously that is actually the note D flat, but I'm going to refer to it as D, concert pitch, because it's easier to visualise those notes. Let's talk about the tone. This is a clean, jangly sound, but there's a little bit of grit to it, a little bit of drive. So you want to just crank up this, the drive or the gain a little bit on your amp or a pedal. It doesn't have to be crazy full metal distortion here, but a little bit of an edge, a little bit of break-up tone is going to really get you in that ballpark tone. I've also got some reverb and delay on here, because who doesn't love reverb and delay? Okay, let's get straight into the song. So the first chord is this D add 9 chord. Lovely sounding chord, right up the dusty end of the fretboard, and it's a little bit of a mouthful this one, but let's stick with me and let's get through it. Let's go through it bit by bit. So we start off by taking our second finger on the 17th fret on the A string, the 5th string, and that's the note D, that's the root note. Below that is above that is our first finger on the F sharp, that's the 3rd of the chord. Then we've got our little finger on the 19th fret on the G string, on the 3rd string, that's the octave of the root. So there's another D there. And then we've got the 9th of the chord, which is the note E, and that's our 3rd finger playing on the 17th fret on the B string. And that's followed by an open E string as well, which is also the 9th of the chord, so that's an octave of that 9th. And that's quite nice because that really helps to just blend all the notes, having that open string in there. Okay, so the picking pattern of this, using a plectrum, we're going to play a downstroke on the root note on the 5th string, followed by a downstroke just below it on the F sharp on the 4th string, and then an upstroke on the 3rd string, which is the octave root. So down, down, up. And you'll notice as I play that upstroke, my hand automatically moves a little bit upwards, and that's because it's preparing itself to play another downstroke on the 4th string. Okay, down, down, up, down. Once I hit that downstroke on the 4th string, my hand automatically moves down to the bottom of the strings because it's preparing itself to then play this big whole bunch of upstrokes from the 1st string, 2nd, 3rd, and then the 4th string. But when we play the 4th string, we take our finger off and we play an open D. That's quite important, as we'll find out in just a minute when we come to the next chord. That open D really helps us in changing the chord. So let's just go through this first chord and the picking arpeggio. So down, down, up, down, up, 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 up with an open. A couple more times, nice and slowly. Open. Okay, a couple of little pro tips here. Try to play on your fingertips as much as possible. This arpeggiated pattern really relies upon all these notes ringing through, chiming nicely. If you're not playing on the fingertips, there's a good chance that your fingers are going to be collapsing a little bit and muting the strings below them. So you want to make sure that each note is ringing through nice and clearly. So just play them all, and if you haven't got that down, adjust any of the fingers that aren't working, adjust them accordingly and make sure they're all ringing through. If you need to, pause this video and just work on that before we move on and come back to the rest of the video once you've got that down. It will help you so much if you can get that down and get all those notes ringing through now, and then come and revisit the rest of the song. Okay, so once we've got this picking pattern down, let's move to the second chord. So the first chord, one more time. Open. Now once we hit that open D string, our first finger is no longer on the fretboard, so that means it's ready to be put into position for the next chord. Now the next chord is exactly the same chord, but the root note's changed. Essentially, the root note moves from D down a semitone to the major 7th, which is C sharp. But just moving your finger down a semitone is a little bit fiddly. It's not the most comfortable position. So the best way to play it is to take our first finger, which is no longer on the fretboard, and to put that in position, and then collapse it so that it also grabs the F sharp below it. I then like to take my second finger, which is no longer doing anything now, and I put it on top, and it just helps me apply a little bit of pressure into that bar, because there's a little 2-string bar going on here. And then we have exactly the same picking pattern. And then open. Okay, now you'll notice that open string from the first chord, that just buys us a fraction of a second time to move our finger into the next chord position. And the same thing again. Open string at the end, and then we move to the 3rd chord, which is we take our first finger, which is again, it's now up in the air because we played the open D string, and we put it down on the note G, which is on the 15th fret on the E string, and our second finger is now going to grab that F sharp on the 16th fret on the D string. Okay, so these notes here have not moved, they've not changed. In fact, these two fingers have stayed planted in this position the whole entire time. Just these fingers have rotated a little bit depending on the chord we're playing. Exactly the same picking pattern with this chord. This is now a D add 9 with a G in the bass, or what you might refer to as a G major 13. But exactly the same picking pattern, but this time the only difference being is that we have to do a bit of a string skip because our first note is now on the E string, and then we jump a string to the 4th string. Now, we play this chord twice, and the first time round we play it, we don't need to take our second finger off to reveal the open D string, because we don't need to move the chord. Keep it where it is, and then the second time we lift it off to reveal the open, and that gives us that fraction of a second amount of time to move back to the first chord, and we repeat the whole chord progression again. So nice and slowly, open, open, keep your finger there, get ready for the open, back to the beginning. Open, open, keep your finger there, open, and round we go. Practice that nice and slowly, use a metronome if you want, and then gradually build the speed up. It's not a question of getting it as fast as you can to begin with, it's much better to slow it down and make sure all those notes are clearly ringing through and then build the speed up, rather than playing it really quickly but really scrappy. The record's tempo is something like... So that's what you're aiming for. Okay, so that's that first section of the song. Now let's look at the next section of the song. Okay, so we move into the bridge section now, and there's some big stretches going on here, so it's a little bit tricky. If you stay to the end of the lesson, I'll give you a little bonus way on an easier way to play this. But the way we're going to look at it now is the same way that it's played on the record, and it's the way that Dave Kooning plays it live. And I've watched many videos of him playing live, and I've seen the Killers play live before as well. It is a bit of a stretch, but let's go through it. It works around 3 chords: a B minor chord, it's actually a B minor 11, an A chord, and a G chord. The first chord is this big B minor 11 chord, and let's have a listen to these 3 chords and how it sounds first. Okay, so that's the part. So let's look at the first chord. We're going to take our third finger to play the root note B, and that's on the 6th string on the 7th fret. That's followed by an open D string, and then the note D on the 3rd string on the 7th fret. So we've got 2 Ds there, an octave apart. Our first finger is then going to grab the note E on the 2nd string on the 5th fret, and then following that is the open E. So we get a unison of that, which is the 11th of the chord. The picking pattern is a down on the B string, on the note B on the 6th string, followed by a down on the 4th string, then an up on the 3rd string, back down on the 4th string, and then from the 1st string to the 4th string, all upstrokes. So 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. Okay, let's do that. Repeat that picking pattern just nice and slowly. So down, down, up, down, up, 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 up. Okay, we play that chord twice. So we play around that arpeggio twice, then we move to the second chord. These notes don't change through any of the chords, only the bass note changes. So again, just like our opening riff, we've got lots of open strings and we've got lots of similarities in the chords with just the bass moving around it. So the second chord is exactly the same, but we play the open A string. However, there's a little caveat to it, that we want to try and switch out our first finger for our second finger, because that's going to make it easier to grab the 3rd chord when we get there. Okay, so not only do we change from the root note B to the open A string, but we're also going to quickly change our first finger to the second finger. And again, as with the opening riff, these opening strings, these open chord voicings, so the first 2 notes in the chord being open, give us that fraction of a second time to quickly switch fingers. So our second chord, we've switched our first finger for our second finger, we play exactly the same picking pattern, but we play it from the open A string. Okay, twice round the chord. The third chord, because we switched our finger, you can see now that it's much easier to use our first finger to grab that open G, which is on the 3rd fret on the 6th string, and this is where the big stretch happens. This is where you're going to find it a little bit tricky, so just practice this and stay with it. Keeping your thumb down on the fretboard is always going to help a little bit here to get that stretch. And then this third chord, exactly the same picking pattern again, but now we're playing from the open, sorry, we're playing from the 6th string on the 3rd fret. We play this one 4 times. Then we go back to the beginning and we repeat that pattern. So nice and slowly. Switch fingers. Big stretch. Times on this one. Down we go again. Switch back fingers. Switch fingers. Big stretch. Keep that thumb down. Okay, so a lovely chord progression, lots of lovely movement there. I love all the open strings in the chord voicings which happen in this song. But yeah, it is a bit of a tricky one with the stretch, but like I say, hang around to the end of the video and I will give you a little easier alternative to this if you find that a bit tricky. Okay, so into the chorus. This is probably my favourite part of the song to play. It's probably the easiest bit to play as well. It doesn't have all the big stretches or the funny chord shapes. It works around the chord D into G, such as G add 9, B minor to A. So that's the underlying harmony, and we have this driving picked pattern which sounds like this. Okay, let's break that down. So we have this little 2-note voicing that we're picking through. Second finger, is on the note D, which is on the 4th string on the 12th fret. And our first finger is on the note F sharp, which is on the 3rd string of the 11th fret. So that's like a D chord, but we're playing the root and 3rd of the chord. We start with the F sharp, and then we play an upstroke on the F sharp and a downstroke on the D. So we do that 4 times. Now we move the F sharp up to the G, which is 1 semitone higher, back up to the 12th fret, and we use our we use our 3rd finger to grab that. So our 3rd finger is going to jump in on the G on the 12th fret on the 3rd string. Another 4 of those, and then we're going to use our little finger to grab the A, which is on the 14th fret on the G string. Another 4 of those. So just put that together. Up to G, up to A. Now once we get to this point, we keep our fingers in position and we slide this all the way down to the 7th and the 9th fret. So we're down here. And the reason for the slide is it smooths that transition from this area of the neck to this area of the neck. So it just helps us keep a fluent, smooth transition between the parts. So we're going to go from the first part to G, to A, slide down. Now we're playing the note E and A, and this E is going to move down to the note D, and then to the C sharp, and then back up to the D. All whilst playing this A on the D string, on the 4th string. Slide down, E, D, C sharp, D. F sharp, G, 2, 3, 4, A, slide down, E, D, C sharp, E. Okay, so your hand is like a little motor on the right hand with the plectrum, just keeping that 8th note driving all the way through. Halfway through, we then transition into this next part where we're playing these triad voicings. The first one is the chord D, and that's our first finger on the 5th fret on the 1st string, our little finger on the 7th fret on the 2nd string, and our 3rd finger on the 7th fret on the 3rd string. And we play this picking pattern, which is 1st string, 2nd string, 3rd string, first string, second string, third string, so twice. And I'm playing up, up, down, and then 2 ups on the first and second. So up, up, down, up, down, up. Now we move up to a G triad chord, which is like a D chord that we used to, this triangular shape that we have, but up here on the 7th and 8th fret. Our second finger is on the 7th fret on the first string. Our third finger is on the 8th fret on the second string, and our first finger is on the 7th fret on the third string. Exactly the same picking pattern. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Up, up, down, up, down, up. So from the D. And then we grab this triad where our little finger comes up to the 10th fret and bars across both the first and second string. And our first finger stays where it was on the 7th fret on the third string. Again, same picking pattern. And then we finish that phrase the same way that we end the first phrase. So D. A little bit fiddly, bit of practice and you'll get it. Again, as always, slow this down, that's the key. Make sure you slow it down enough that you can get each note ringing through clearly and then build the speed up. It's more important to get the notes to ring through clearly before you build the speed up than it is to play it fast but really scrappy. Okay, to add to this chorus section, there are multiple layers of guitars going on, and there's some really cool parts going on, but there's too much to cover all in one lesson. But to give you underlying harmony guitar part, so if you're playing this in a 2-part guitar scenario, we have this chugging power chord. There's actually a lot of distortion. It's almost like a sawtooth kind of distortion going on, a little bit buried in the mix. But it's basically a D power chord, which I'm going to be playing here on the 5th fret on the A string, to a G power chord. I'll play that here on the 6th string on the 3rd fret, up to the B, and then down to the A. And we've got this driving, and that works underneath our lead. So those 2 parts go hand in hand. I'm going to attempt to play back the lead part that I just recorded, and then I'll play the chugging part underneath. Let's see if this works. So a little tip here, when I'm playing power chords, my second finger, which isn't doing anything, mutes the low E string. So that means I don't have to be quite so accurate with my plectrum. I can hit all the strings here. And I'm obviously playing the 5th, 4th and the 3rd string, and I'm not playing the 1st and the 2nd string. So my first finger is now just resting across the 1st and 2nd string to mute those as well. So my 6th string, my 1st and 2nd string are all muted. So I can hit all the strings, lay into it with a bit of attitude, and not be worried about hitting the wrong notes. If I didn't do that, I'd be getting all these open strings, which you don't want in the chord. Obviously, when we move to the power chord off of the 6th string, I don't need to worry about muting anything below it because there are no strings below it. So my first finger just mutes the high 3 strings, strings 1, 2 and 3. So again, I've only got the notes I want ringing through. So just a little pro tip there. Okay, so now we're at the final piece of the puzzle, which is the guitar solo or the guitar breakdown. Good news is it's very much the same as the chorus, but slightly different melody. So let's get straight into it. We're back up here at the 11th and 12th fret. So we've got the F sharp on the 3rd string on the 11th fret and the D on the 12th fret on the D string. And again, same picking pattern. We're playing up on the F sharp and down on the D. We're going to do that twice. And let me play the melody and I'll shout the notes as I go through. So F sharp, G, A, G, A, G, F sharp, F sharp, F sharp, G, F sharp. We move back down here to the E with the A, E and A, D, C sharp, D. We play that through twice, so nice and slowly. Second time. And then once we play that through twice, we just go back into the last chorus. And the only difference being is on the very end of the last chorus, when we get down here, we hit 3 big chords, and that's how we end the song. So just those 3 same notes, the E with the A in the bass, D with the A in the bass, C sharp with the A in the bass. And that's it, that's the end of the song. Okay, as promised, here's a simpler way of playing that pre-chorus section. So we're going to move down to our 2nd and 3rd fret, and we're going to play this B11 chord down here with this nice easy voicing, which doesn't have quite such a amount of sparkle because the note is in a lower register, but it will certainly get you through if you're playing this on the gig and struggling to get these stretches in. So this chord is as follows. Our first finger is going to play the note B, the root note, on the 2nd fret on the 5th string. Then we're going to play the open D string. Then we're going to play the D octave on the 3rd fret on the 2nd string, which is with our little finger, and then the open E string for the 11th. And the picking pattern is. So that's 5, 4, 2, 4, open E, 2, 4, 2. Now we just take our first finger off to reveal the A. And then we're going to use our 3rd finger to grab the G. 4 times. Round we go again. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something from it. Please do like and subscribe. It really does help my channel. And drop any comments below for future songs you might want me to learn. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you.